The castle corridors were alive with whispers of duty and expectation. Duke Alistair stood in his chamber, the heavy oak door closed behind him, shielding him from the eyes and ears of the court. Outside, the marble halls echoed with the soft footsteps of nobles preparing for the upcoming feast, a celebration meant to announce his choice of bride. Lady Evelyn, his elder sister, was the jewel of the court. Her beauty was spoken of in every corner, her grace envied by every lady, and her ambition as sharp as the jeweled daggers she kept hidden beneath her gowns. The kingdom expected the Duke to marry her. It was a union that would secure alliances and strengthen the family's grip on power. Yet, in the quiet of his chambers, Alistair's heart rebelled. His mind was not on duty or politics, but on Clara, the soft-spoken camarera who moved through the shadows, unnoticed by all but him. Her presence was like a secret melody, subtle, yet impossible to forget. He remembered the first time their hands brushed accidentally while she handed him a folded letter. The touch lingered, warm and electric, a contrast to the cold stone walls surrounding them. Clara's skin was smooth, her fingers delicate, yet confident. He had inhaled the faint scent of lavender and fresh linen from her, a scent that now haunted his dreams. That night, unable to bear the growing ache within, he sought her out in the quietest corner of the servants' quarters. The dim light flickered over her face, revealing eyes deep with unspoken stories. When she looked up, their gazes locked, and in that moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. He reached out gently, tracing the line of her jaw with a trembling fingertip, feeling the softness of her skin beneath his calloused hand. His breath caught as her eyes fluttered closed, the scent of her hair mingling with the warmth of the room. It was a touch forbidden, a stolen moment that burned brighter than any flame in the castle's grand hearth. Alistair's lips brushed hers, tentative at first, then with growing hunger and reverence. The taste of her was intoxicating, a blend of sweet innocence and quiet strength that he had never known. Her lips parted beneath his, inviting him into a world where duty did not exist, only the truth of their connection. Yet outside those walls, the kingdom waited, and Lady Evelyn watched, with eyes sharp and calculating. The sister he was meant to choose was ready to claim her place, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to accept, the love blossoming in shadows. The weight of expectation pressed down on him. The scent of roses from the gardens below mingled with the sharp edge of fear and desire within. Could he defy tradition and choose love, or would he be forced to silence his heart for the sake of the throne? In the silence, Clara's hand found his, a silent promise that whatever path he chose, they would face it together. The choice was his to make. The castle's walls held many secrets, but none as quietly persistent as the one that lingered in the corners where Clara moved. She was a shadow among the grand tapestries and polished stone floors, unseen by most, but her presence was deeply felt by Alistair. While Lady Evelyn adorned herself in silks and jewels, preparing for the grand feast that would announce her betrothal, or so the court believed, Clara worked silently behind the scenes. Her hands, rough from daily tasks yet gentle in their touch, carried the weight of unspoken hopes and dreams. She had lived in the shadows for years, watching the world from behind curtained windows and locked doors, never daring to step into the light meant for nobles. But Alistair saw her, truly saw her, in a way no one else did. He saw the strength beneath her quiet demeanor, the fierce intelligence that flickered in her eyes when she spoke softly about books and distant lands. To him, she was a breath of fresh air in a world suffocated by etiquette and obligation. Their stolen moments were brief but electric, a touch on a sleeve, a shared glance across the crowded hall, the subtle brush of fingers as she passed a cup of wine. Each encounter sent shivers through Alistair's body, igniting a fire he could no longer deny. Yet the court was unforgiving. Rumors began to swirl, whispers of impropriety and scandal. Lady Evelyn, sensing the growing threat to her ambitions, tightened her grip on those around her, weaving webs of suspicion and doubt. She used every tool at her disposal, the favor of the Queen, the ear of influential lords, to isolate Clara and undermine her growing influence over the Duke. One evening, as the feast drew to a close and the great hall emptied, Clara found herself cornered in the shadowed gallery by two of Evelyn's most loyal servants. Their words were sharp, veiled threats that promised ruin should she continue to draw Alistair's attention. Clara's heart pounded, but her resolve hardened. She would not be driven away by fear or malice. The love she and Alistair shared was more than a fleeting whisper. It was a force that could challenge the very foundations of the kingdom. Meanwhile, Alistair wrestled with the weight of his secret. His nights were restless, torn between the demands of his birthright and the yearning in his soul. Every glance at Clara reminded him of what was at stake, not just his own happiness, but the fragile peace of a kingdom on the edge of turmoil. In the quiet of his chambers, he vowed to protect her, to fight for a love that many deemed impossible. The path ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, but for the first time in his life, Alistair chose his heart over duty. The moon hung low over the castle, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the stone courtyard. Beneath its pale light, Alistair and Clara met in secret, a stolen refuge from the prying eyes of the court. Their breaths mingled in the cold night air, the tension between them palpable and electric. Alistair reached for Clara's hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, grounding them both in a moment that felt both fragile and eternal. He brushed a stray lock of hair from her face, inhaling the soft scent of lavender mixed with the faintest hint of smoke from the hearth fires. His touch lingered along her cheek, tracing the curve of her jaw with reverence and a longing that words could never fully capture. Clara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, the weight of their impossible love pressing heavily upon her heart. She leaned into his touch, savoring the warmth and the bittersweet ache that came with knowing their time together was stolen, limited. Their lips met in a slow, deliberate kiss, tender yet charged with a fierce hunger born of years of denial and silence. The taste of her was sweet and intoxicating, a balm to Alistair's weary soul. They spoke in whispers, voices hushed against the night's stillness. Promises were exchanged, of loyalty, of defiance against a world that sought to keep them apart, of a future they dared to dream of, despite the shadows that loomed. But even in this sanctuary, the danger was never far. The castle was alive with secrets and spies, and Lady Evelyn's watchful gaze was unrelenting. The threat of exposure hung like a dagger over their heads, a constant reminder that their love was a rebellion in itself. As dawn approached, they parted reluctantly, each retreating to their separate worlds, the noble's duty and the servant's hidden life, both yearning for a day when love would no longer have to hide in the shadows. The morning sun filtered through the stained glass windows of the great hall, casting fractured rainbows on the polished marble floor. The court gathered, the weight of anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Today was no ordinary day. It was the day Princess Evelyn's influence was set to be challenged, not by a rival noble, but by the quiet servant who had captured the Duke's heart. Alistair stood tall, his posture steady but his eyes revealing the storm beneath. Beside him, Clara moved with a grace born not of noble blood, but of quiet strength and unwavering resolve. The whispers began immediately, court ladies casting sidelong glances, murmurs of scandal mingling with disbelief. Lady Evelyn entered, her face a mask of composure, but her eyes glinted with cunning fire. She stepped forward, voice calm yet laced with venom. A servant, daring to claim a place among us. This is treason against our house, and the very laws that bind our kingdom. Clara met her gaze, unwavering. I claim nothing but the truth, lady. Evelyn, love is not bound by birthright, nor loyalty by titles. The hall erupted into chaos, noble voices clamoring, factions forming. Yet, amidst the uproar, King Edmund's voice rang clear, silencing the crowd. Enough. This matter will be judged not by whispers, but by truth and honor. He beckoned a herald forward, who unfurled a scroll sealed with the royal crest. The room held its breath as the king read aloud. It has come to light that Clara is the daughter of Lord Harrington, a nobleman whose loyalty to Eldoria has never faltered. Her birth was hidden to protect her from the dangers that sought to unravel our kingdom. Shock rippled through the assembled guests. Lady Evelyn's face paled, the carefully constructed facade cracking. Alistair's heart soared with relief and hope. The impossible had been revealed. But the revelation was only the beginning. Shadows lingered, questions of trust, allegiance, and the true cost of love in a world ruled by blood and power. The halls of Eldoria buzzed with tension, as factions formed like storms ready to break. Lady Evelyn, stripped of her advantage but fueled by bitter resolve, marshaled her loyalists, determined to crush Clara's newfound standing. Blood and birthright, Evelyn hissed during a secret council meeting, are the only truths that hold this kingdom together. Her servants' claim, no matter how noble, threatens to unravel everything we've built. Opposing her, Sir Thomas and Lady Mirabel stood firm beside Clara and Duke Alistair. They argued passionately that loyalty, courage, and love should define leadership, not just noble blood. The debate was fierce and words became weapons sharper than swords. Throughout the turmoil, Clara remained composed, her eyes burning with quiet determination. She knew the court's intrigue was only the surface of a deeper struggle, the battle for the soul of Eldoria. Late into the night, rumors spread of shadowy alliances and betrayals. Every whispered conversation held the potential to tip the balance. Lord Damien, lurking in the wings, watched eagerly, plotting to exploit the chaos. For Alistair and Clara, the fight was personal. Beyond politics, it was a struggle to protect the love that had blossomed in secret. Every glance, every touch, was a promise of defiance against those who wished to see them torn apart. As dawn approached, the lines were drawn, and the kingdom braced for a reckoning, one that would decide the future of Eldoria and the fate of its rightful heir. The sun broke over Eldoria, casting golden light upon a kingdom teetering on the edge of chaos. The great hall was filled with tension, as nobles, knights, and courtiers gathered for the decisive moment that would determine the fate of the duchy. Alistair, clad in polished armor, stood resolute beside Clara, whose calm strength radiated like a beacon of hope. The court's divisions ran deep, but their united front showed a promise of change, one born not just of lineage, but of heart and honor. Lord Evelyn, no longer able to manipulate from the shadows, confronted them openly. Her voice sharp and filled with bitterness. This house was built on blood and tradition. You would see it crumble for a love born in darkness? Clara stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. Love born in darkness often shines the brightest. It is the light that guides us through shadows. Of doubt and fear, the council voted and the tide turned. Alistair was confirmed as the rightful duke, and Clara was recognized not only as his partner, but as a noble woman of true merit. The kingdom breathed a sigh of relief, yet the victory was tempered with the knowledge of battles yet to come. The day ended with celebrations that echoed through the stone walls, a promise of renewal and unity. Helena's story, one of love defying expectations and strength born from shadows, would be remembered as the dawn of a new Eldoria. The grand halls of Eldoria now echoed with laughter and music, a stark contrast to the whispers of doubt that once filled the air. Under the rule of Duke Alistair and Lady Clara, the duchy blossomed into a realm of hope and prosperity. Clara, once hidden in the shadows, was celebrated as a beacon of courage and wisdom. Her journey from servant to noblewoman inspired many, breaking old prejudices and opening hearts across the kingdom. Alistair ruled with a renewed spirit, his love for Clara strengthening his resolve to govern with justice and compassion. Together they forged alliances that secured peace and stability for generations to come. Though challenges remained, the darkness that once threatened Eldoria had been dispelled by the power of love and truth. The story of the Duke who chose love over duty became legend, a timeless reminder that true nobility lies in the heart. Years passed, and Eldoria transformed under the reign of Duke Alistair and Lady Clara. The shadows that once cloaked the castle and whispered of secrets gave way to light and laughter, echoing through the stone halls. Clara's journey from the unseen corners of the castle to the heart of the duchy became a story told for generations, a testament to courage, resilience, and the power of love to rewrite fate. The people of Eldoria, once divided by bloodlines and old grudges, found unity in the example set by their leaders. The kingdom flourished, not just through alliances forged in politics, but through bonds built on trust and compassion. Alistair and Clara's love endured, a beacon in times of peace and challenge alike. Their legacy was more than titles and lands. It was a kingdom reborn, where the light of truth shone brighter than any shadow of doubt. And so, Eldoria stepped boldly into the future, forever changed by the princess who dared to love beyond the A. Walls that tried to contain her, and the Duke who chose the woman in the shadows over the brightest star of the court. If this story touched your heart and kept you hooked from beginning to end, don't miss out on the upcoming adventures filled with love, intrigue, and surprising twists. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know every corner of the world where our stories come alive. Like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a moment. See you in the next story.